A gunshot shattered the silence just as Elena Carter stepped out of the black sedan. The bullet slammed into the marble pillar inches from her head. Stone exploded into dust. Her breath caught. Someone screamed. Men in dark suits reached for their weapons. "What is happening?" Elena gasped, stumbling backward. A hand gripped her wrist suddenly, firm, unshaking. "Stay behind me," a calm voice commanded. Kang Jae-hyun stood in front of her like a wall, his eyes cold, calculating, already searching for the threat. Another shot rang out. His guards fired back instantly, chaos swallowing the courtyard of the grand estate. Elena's heart pounded violently. She had been in this country for less than 24 hours, and someone was already trying to kill her. Jae-hyun turned slightly, his voice low and controlled. "Welcome to my world, Mrs. Kang." And that was the moment Elena realized she had made the most dangerous mistake of her life. Before we dive deeper into this intense story of power, betrayal, and dangerous love, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments, would you risk everything to save your family? Because Elena did. Just 3 days earlier, her life had been ordinary. Elena Carter was a 27-year-old art curator from New York. Her world had been galleries, quiet evenings, and carefully restored paintings. She believed in beauty, not violence. Freedom, not control. Then her father called. His voice had been shaking. "Elena, I made a mistake. A mistake worth $2 million. Gambling debts. Dangerous people. No escape." The solution they offered was simple. A contract marriage. 1 year as the wife of Kang Jae-hyun, one of the most feared crime syndicate leaders in South Korea. In exchange, her father would live. She had laughed at first. Then they sent proof. Surveillance photos. Bank records. Videos of men following her father. The message was clear. Accept the contract, or bury her father. And Elena chose sacrifice. Now she stood inside a world where death greeted her at the door. The shooting stopped as quickly as it began. The attackers had fled. Jae-hyun released her wrist slowly. His touch had been steady, almost careful, which somehow terrified her more. "You are shaking," he observed. "You think," she snapped, her voice breaking. "Someone just tried to kill me." His gaze studied her like she was a puzzle. "They weren't trying to kill you," he said quietly. "They were testing me." Elena stared at him. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" He said nothing. The wedding took place that same evening. It was grand, traditional, and completely emotionless. Elena wore a ceremonial gown she had not chosen. She repeated vows she did not mean. Hundreds of powerful figures watched her like spectators at an auction. When the ceremony ended, applause filled the hall. She felt like property being transferred. Later that night, she stood in the vast bedroom of Jae-hyun's mansion, staring at the city lights beyond the glass walls. Her reflection looked like a stranger, dressed in silk, eyes filled with fear. The door opened behind her. Jae-hyun entered quietly. They stood in silence for a long moment. "This marriage," she finally said, forcing strength into her voice, "is a contract. Nothing more." He stepped closer. "Yes," he agreed. "A contract that keeps you alive." His eyes held something dangerous, possession mixed with restraint. "You belong under my protection now." "I don't belong to anyone," she replied sharply. For a moment, tension thickened the air between them. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped back. "You will learn," he said calmly. The next day introduced her to the reality of his empire. A formal dinner was held in her honor. Powerful men and women studied her every move, whispering in a language she barely understood. She could feel their judgment. The foreign wife. The bargaining chip. A woman named Yuna approached her quietly during the evening. Her expression was kind, but her eyes carried warning. "You should be careful," Yuna whispered. "Of what?" Elena asked. "Of him." Elena glanced toward Jae-hyun across the room. He was speaking to his associates, radiating quiet authority. "He saved my father's life," Elena said. Yuna's gaze softened with pity. "Men like him don't save people," she said gently. "They collect them." The words unsettled Elena deeply. That night, unable to sleep, She searched the mansion's restricted files. What she found shattered her. Her father had not simply borrowed money. He had stolen from Jae-hyun's organization. Millions. Her hands trembled as she confronted Jae-hyun the next morning. "You knew," she accused, throwing the documents onto the table. "Yes." The calmness of his answer ignited her fury. "You destroyed my life because of my father's crime." "I gave you protection," he corrected. "You bought me." His voice remained steady. "I chose you." The words stunned her into silence. "Why?" she demanded. He held her gaze. "Because from the moment I saw you, I knew you would either become my greatest weakness or my greatest strength." Days passed, and danger tightened around her. Security footage revealed someone breaking into her old office in New York. Her past was being erased piece by piece. She was no longer just collateral. She was a target. Jae-hyun increased her security, assigning guards everywhere she went. He began teaching her survival skills personally. The first time he placed a gun in her hands, she recoiled. "I can't do this." "You must." His voice softened slightly. "I will not always be there to protect you." Training became routine. She learned to shoot, to fight, to observe. Fear slowly transformed into determination. One evening, after hours of practice, she collapsed into a chair, exhausted. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. Jae-hyun looked at her for a long moment. "Because losing you would cost me more than war." The admission unsettled her heart. For the first time, she saw something human behind his cold exterior. But peace never lasted. One night, she secretly met her father in an underground parking garage. Tears filled her eyes. "You traded me," she said. "I had no choice," he cried. A sudden explosion cut through the air. Armed men emerged from the shadows. Gunfire erupted. Elena froze, until Jae-hyun appeared, shielding her with his body as bullets struck the concrete around them. When the attackers fled, her father lay wounded but alive. Jae-hyun could have killed him. He didn't. And in that moment, Elena's feelings shifted in ways she could not explain. Because the man she feared most had chosen mercy. Their fates were becoming dangerously intertwined. And the real war had only just begun. Elena could not sleep after that night in the parking garage. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw bullets tearing through the darkness, heard the deafening echo of gunfire, felt Jae-hyun's arms shielding her body. The memory stirred something unsettling inside her, fear tangled with a dangerous sense of safety. The next morning, she found him in the private training hall. He moved with controlled precision, striking a practice target with brutal force. Each motion was efficient, powerful, almost emotionless. Sweat traced the lines of old scars across his arms, silent stories of violence she could not imagine. "You could have killed my father," she said quietly. Jae-hyun stopped but did not turn. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" He faced her then, eyes unreadable. "Because you asked me not to." The simplicity of his answer struck her harder than any threat. Elena swallowed. "You listen to me?" "When it concerns your life," he replied calmly, "always." The words lingered between them. Training intensified after that. Jae-hyun pushed her harder. No hesitation, no sympathy. He taught her how to read danger in silence, how to disarm an attacker, how to fire without trembling. At first, she resented his harshness. Then she began to understand. Survival required transformation. One evening, as she struggled to reload a weapon with shaking hands, frustration overwhelmed her. "I'm not made for this world," she shouted. Jae-hyun stepped closer, steadying her hands with his own. "You are stronger than the world that forced you into it." His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Elena felt her pulse quicken under his touch. Something was changing between them, something neither fully acknowledged. But the fragile calm shattered days later. Yuna burst into Elena's room without warning, her usually composed face pale. "They know," she said urgently. "Know what?" "Your mother." The name sent a chill through Elena's body. "My mother died years ago." Yuna hesitated. "That is not the full truth." Within hours, Elena was shown sealed records, hidden documents about her mother's past life in Korea. A woman connected to powerful criminal networks. A mysterious death. A cover-up. Her entire identity began to unravel. That night she confronted Jae-hyun, her voice trembling with fury. "You knew about my mother too?" "Yes. You kept it from me. I was protecting you." "Stop deciding what's best for me," she cried. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, emotions threatening to consume her. "Who was she?" Elena demanded. Jae-hyun's expression darkened. A woman caught in a war she could not escape. The answer offered no comfort. Instead, it tied Elena's fate even deeper into the violent world she had married into. From that moment, the threats escalated. Vehicles followed her through the city. Anonymous messages appeared on her phone. One night, a package arrived at the mansion containing a single photograph, her childhood home burning. Fear returned stronger than before. Jae-hyun doubled security, rarely leaving her side. His protectiveness became suffocating, yet strangely reassuring. During one tense evening, Elena confronted him. "You can't control every part of my life." His gaze hardened. "I can control whether you live. I want freedom." "You want survival," he corrected. Their arguments became frequent, fiery clashes of will and emotion. Yet beneath the conflict grew an undeniable connection neither could escape. Then came the revelation that changed everything. Intelligence reports confirmed the identity of their enemy, Ryu Song-woo, a rival syndicate leader seeking revenge for his father's death. The truth was devastating. Elena's mother had been involved in that conflict years earlier. Her death had triggered a cycle of vengeance that now targeted Elena herself. She was not collateral damage. She was the center of the war. When she learned this, Elena collapsed into a chair, her world spinning. "So I was doomed from the beginning," she whispered. Jae-hyun knelt before her, his voice firm. "No. You were chosen." "For what?" "To suffer. To survive." His certainty steadied her, yet the weight of destiny felt unbearable. Days later, the mansion was breached. The attack came without warning. Explosions rocked the outer gates. Alarms blared. Armed men stormed the grounds. Elena's training took over. She grabbed a weapon, hands steady despite the chaos. Jae-hyun's voice echoed in her memory. "Breathe. Focus." Gunfire erupted through the halls. A masked attacker lunged toward her. Instinct replaced fear. She fired. The man collapsed. Silence followed. Elena stared at what she had done, horror flooding her. "I killed someone," she whispered. Jae-hyun appeared beside her, checking her for injuries. "You survived," he said. His calm acceptance terrified her more than the violence itself. That night, shaken and overwhelmed, Elena broke down. "I don't recognize myself anymore," she confessed. Jae-hyun stood quietly beside her. "This world changes everyone. I don't want to become like you." His jaw tightened slightly. "Neither do I." The vulnerability in his voice stunned her. For the first time, she saw the burden he carried, the loneliness behind power. Their distance began to close. One quiet evening on the balcony overlooking the city, Elena spoke softly. "Are you ever afraid?" Jae-hyun answered after a long silence. "Yes." "Of what?" "Losing control and losing you." Her heart trembled. But danger never allowed peace for long. A trusted member of Jae-hyun's organization betrayed them, leaking their movements to the enemy. Several warehouses were destroyed overnight. The syndicate's power weakened. War was inevitable. Tension consumed the mansion. Strategies were discussed behind closed doors. Armed guards filled every corridor. Elena realized escape was no longer an option. She had crossed too far into this world. During a heated strategy meeting, she spoke unexpectedly. "I want to help." The room fell silent. Jae-hyun's expression hardened. "No. I'm already involved," she insisted. "They're targeting me. Let me fight." His voice lowered dangerously. "I will not risk your life." "You risk it every day." Their argument erupted in front of everyone. "I refuse to be protected like an object," she said fiercely. He stepped closer, eyes blazing. You are not an object. You are the one thing I cannot afford to lose. The confession stunned the room, and Elena most of all. The emotional barrier between them shattered. That night they spoke honestly for the first time. You scare me, she admitted. I know. But when you're near, I feel safe. Jae-hyun's voice softened. You are safe with me. Trust, fragile and dangerous, took root. Soon after, intelligence revealed Ryu Sung-woo's final plan, a direct assault meant to destroy Jae-hyun's organization completely. The coming battle would decide everything. As preparations began, Elena stood before a mirror in the training hall, staring at her reflection. The frightened woman from New York was gone. In her place stood someone hardened by choice. Someone who refused to run. If you're still watching and feeling this intense journey, drop a comment below and tell me, would you fight for the person who once terrified you? And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Because Elena's greatest test was still ahead. The night before the final confrontation, she found Jae-hyun alone. I'm staying, she told him firmly. You still have a chance to leave. I don't want to leave. His eyes searched hers, as if measuring the truth of her words. This path is filled with blood, he warned. So is the one behind me, she replied. For the first time, Jae-hyun allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Then he spoke words that changed everything. Stand beside me tomorrow. And Elena chose her fate. The war would begin at dawn. Dawn arrived without mercy. A cold gray light spread across the compound as armed vehicles rolled through the gates. The air itself seemed tense, heavy with the promise of violence. Elena stood beside the armored window, watching men prepare for war. Her hands no longer trembled. Behind her, Jae-hyun adjusted the cuff of his black suit, every movement calm, controlled, as if he were attending a business meeting instead of a battlefield. She turned to him. Are you afraid today? His eyes met hers. Yes, he said quietly. Because today you stand beside me. The honesty struck her deeply. I won't hide, she replied. A long silence followed. Then he handed her a firearm, not as a command, but as trust. Stay close, he said. The convoy departed shortly after. Engines roared as they moved through the waking city, heading toward an abandoned industrial district where Ryu Sung-woo had established his base. Intelligence suggested this would be the decisive confrontation. One side would rise, the other would fall. Inside the vehicle, tension pressed in from all sides. Elena watched the passing streets, memories of her former life flickering like distant shadows. Museums. Quiet galleries. Ordinary conversations. That world felt impossibly far away. Jae-hyun noticed her expression. You still have time to turn back. She shook her head slowly. I crossed that line the moment I signed your contract. His voice softened. You were forced. I'm choosing now, she corrected. Something unspoken passed between them, respect, fragile but powerful. The convoy halted at the edge of a deserted shipping yard. Rusted containers towered like silent giants, forming a maze of steel and shadow. Jae-hyun's men spread out strategically. Weapons were drawn. Every movement was precise. Then a voice echoed through hidden speakers. I've been waiting. Ryu Sung-woo stepped from the shadows, surrounded by armed soldiers. His expression carried cold amusement. So this is the woman who started everything, he said, studying Elena. Jae-hyun moved slightly in front of her. You wanted me, he said evenly. I'm here. Sung laughed. No. I wanted justice. His gaze returned to Elena. Your mother destroyed my family. The accusation struck like a blow. I don't even know what she did, Elena said, her voice shaking but strong. She chose the wrong side, Sung-woo replied. And now history repeats. Gunfire erupted without further warning. The world exploded into chaos. Bullets tore through metal. Smoke filled the air. Men shouted orders, cries of pain echoing through the yard. Elena moved exactly as she had been trained, staying low, focusing, breathing through the terror. An attacker rushed toward her from behind a container. She fired. He fell. The realization hit instantly. She had chosen violence, chosen survival. Nearby, Jae-hyun fought with terrifying precision, disarming opponents with ruthless efficiency. Yet even in battle, his attention repeatedly returned to Elena, ensuring her safety. The fight intensified. Explosions shook the ground. Vehicles ignited. The battlefield became a storm of fire and steel. At one point, Elena became separated from the group. Panic surged. She turned sharply and found Song-woo standing before her, weapon raised. Silence swallowed the chaos around them. "So much suffering," he said calmly. "All because of your bloodline." Elena steadied her weapon despite the fear clawing at her chest. "I didn't choose my past. But you can choose your end." Before he could fire, a shot rang out. Jae-hyun appeared, striking Song-woo's weapon aside. The two men clashed violently, their conflict fueled by years of hatred. Elena watched, frozen by the intensity of their confrontation. Song-woo fought with desperate fury. "You think protecting her will save you?" he snarled. Jae-hyun's voice was cold. "She is not yours to destroy." Their battle was brutal, raw force against calculated precision. Finally, Jae-hyun disarmed him, forcing him to the ground. Song-woo laughed even in defeat. "The cycle never ends," he whispered. He was taken into custody, his forces scattered. The war was over. Or at least this chapter of it. As the smoke cleared, Elena stood trembling amid the wreckage. The weight of what she had witnessed pressed heavily on her soul. Jae-hyun approached slowly. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. But her eyes filled with tears. "I was ready to kill him," she admitted softly. He studied her carefully. "You chose to live." She looked around at the destruction. "Is this what my life will always be?" He did not lie. Yes. The honesty was painful, yet strangely freeing. For the first time, Elena fully understood the world she had entered. There would never be peace like before. Only constant vigilance, constant danger. Yet she also understood something else. She was no longer trapped. She had power. They returned to the estate in silence. The mansion, once suffocating, now felt different. No longer a cage, but a place she had defended. That night, Elena stood alone in the garden, staring at the moonlit sky. Jae-hyun joined her quietly. "You are free now," he said. She turned sharply. "What do you mean?" "The contract no longer binds you. The debt is settled. You may return to your old life." The offer stunned her. After everything, he was letting her go. Her voice trembled. "And what about you?" His expression remained composed, but pain flickered in his eyes. "I will continue as I always have." The distance in his words cut deeply. Elena's heart raced with confusion, fear, and something stronger. "If I leave," she asked slowly, "would you stop me?" He hesitated. "No." The answer felt like loss. Days passed. Arrangements were made for her return to America. Flights prepared. Documents finalized. Yet with every step toward freedom, Elena felt an unbearable emptiness growing inside her. She remembered his quiet protection, his rare honesty, the way he listened when no one else did. The morning of her departure arrived. Her suitcase waited by the door. Jae-hyun stood across the room, composed but distant. "This is your choice," he said. She studied him carefully, the controlled posture, the guarded expression hiding unspoken emotion. Suddenly, clarity struck her. Freedom without meaning was another kind of prison. "I'm not leaving," she said. The words echoed in the silent room. His composure faltered for the first time. "Elena, I choose this life," she continued, voice steady. "Not because of the contract. Because of you." Emotion flickered in his eyes. Relief, disbelief, something dangerously close to happiness. "You understand what that means?" he asked. "Yes." A long silence followed. Then he stepped forward, closing the distance between them. This time there were no barriers, no conditions. Only choice. Outside, the city pulsed with endless danger. But inside that moment, something real had begun. Their story was far from over. Elena expected relief after making her decision. Instead, a new kind of fear settled inside her. Choosing Jaehyun meant choosing everything that came with him. The violence, the enemies, the endless uncertainty. There was no turning back now. No illusion of temporary sacrifice. This was her life. And the world seemed determined to test her choice immediately. 3 nights after she decided to stay, the mansion's security alarms screamed again. Elena woke to pounding footsteps outside her room and the sharp metallic sound of weapons being loaded. Her heart raced as she threw open the door. A guard shouted, "Internal breach." Internal. Someone inside had betrayed them. She ran down the corridor and nearly collided with Jaehyun. He was already armed, fully alert. "Stay in your room," he ordered. "No," she replied instantly. His jaw tightened. "This is not a request." "And I am not helpless," she said, meeting his gaze. For a moment they stood locked in silent conflict. Then he handed her a weapon. "Stay beside me." Hallway. Elena fired first. They moved together through the mansion's dim corridors. Emergency lights painted everything in cold red shadows. The air smelled of smoke. A group of attackers had infiltrated the lower level. Gunfire echoed from below. As they descended the stairs, Elena's pulse thundered in her ears, but her hands remained steady. She was no longer reacting in panic. She was thinking, calculating. A masked man rushed toward them from the hallway. Elena fired first. He collapsed instantly. Jaehyun glanced at her, not with shock, but with approval. They reached the central hall where chaos had erupted. One of Jaehyun's most trusted commanders lay wounded on the floor. "Inside job," the man whispered weakly. "Someone opened the gates." Rage flickered across Jaehyun's face, a rare, terrifying emotion. The attackers were subdued within minutes, but the damage was done. Trust had been broken. Later that night, surveillance footage revealed the traitor, a senior member of Jaehyun's organization who had served him for years. The betrayal shook the entire foundation of his empire. Elena found him alone in his office afterward, standing before the window, his expression carved from stone. "You trusted him," she said softly. "Yes." "Does it hurt?" He answered without turning. "Pain is irrelevant. Betrayal is weakness." She stepped closer. "Or proof that you're human." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then he spoke quietly. "You see what this world does. Everyone eventually chooses survival over loyalty." Elena studied him carefully. "I chose you," she said. He turned slowly, emotion flickering in his eyes. The following weeks became a relentless struggle to restore control. Rival factions sensed vulnerability and began challenging Jaehyun's authority. Business partners demanded proof of strength. Rumors spread through the criminal underworld. Pressure mounted from every direction. Elena witnessed the cost of leadership, the endless decisions, the sacrifices, the isolation. One evening she found Jaehyun reviewing reports late into the night, exhaustion hidden behind his calm exterior. "When do you rest?" she asked. "When threats end." "They never end." He looked at her. "Exactly." She hesitated before speaking. "You don't have to carry everything alone." Something softened in his expression, a rare acceptance of comfort. Their relationship deepened quietly after that. They shared late-night conversations, moments of honesty unguarded by power or fear. Elena learned about his past, a childhood shaped by violence, a life built on survival, a man who had never expected love. One night, as rain poured against the windows, he asked her a question. "Do you regret staying?" She answered without hesitation. "No." The sincerity in her voice changed something between them. But peace remained fragile. New intelligence arrived weeks later. Ryu Song had escaped custody. The news struck like lightning. Security tightened immediately. Fear returned to the estate, heavier than before. "He will come for you," Jaehyun warned. "Then let him," Elena said quietly. Her courage startled even herself. Preparations began for another inevitable confrontation. Yet this time the threat felt more personal, a war not only for power, but for identity and love. The attack came during a public charity event hosted by the syndicate as a show of strength. The ballroom glittered with wealth and influence. Politicians, business leaders, and powerful figures gathered under dazzling lights. Elena stood beside Jae-hyun in an elegant gown, appearing every bit the untouchable partner of a powerful man. Inside, tension coiled tightly. Suddenly, the lights went out. Screams erupted. Gunfire shattered the darkness. The room descended into chaos as masked assailants stormed the event. Guests scattered in terror. Jae-hyun pulled Elena behind a pillar, shielding her body. "Stay with me," he commanded. "I'm not leaving you," she replied. They fought together through the confusion, protecting civilians, neutralizing attackers. Elena moved with fierce determination, every lesson engraved into instinct. Then Song-woo appeared across the shattered ballroom. His eyes locked onto Elena. "This ends tonight," he declared. He fired. Jae-hyun pushed Elena aside, the bullet grazing his shoulder. Time seemed to stop. Rage unlike anything Elena had ever felt surged through her. She raised her weapon and fired back, forcing Song-woo to retreat. Emergency forces soon overwhelmed the attackers, but the message was clear. The war was not finished. Later, as doctors treated Jae-hyun's injury, Elena's hands shook uncontrollably. "You almost died," she whispered. He reached for her hand. "But I didn't." Tears filled her eyes. "I can't lose you." The words escaped before she could stop them. His grip tightened gently. "You won't." That night marked a turning point. Fear transformed into fierce devotion. They were no longer bound by obligation or circumstance, but by choice, loyalty, and something far deeper. Weeks later, intelligence finally revealed Song-woo's location. A final operation was planned, not just to defeat him, but to end the cycle of revenge forever. The mission was dangerous beyond measure. Before departure, Jae-hyun approached Elena privately. "This is my war," he said. "It became mine long ago. I may not return." Her voice was steady. "Then neither will I." He studied her face, searching for doubt. There was none. For the first time, he allowed himself complete vulnerability. "If anything happens to you," he said quietly, "I would burn this world to the ground." She touched his face gently. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." The night of the final operation arrived. As they prepared to leave, Elena paused at the mansion's entrance and looked back at the place where her life had changed forever. Fear still existed, but courage stood stronger. If you've made it this far in the story and you're feeling the intensity of Elena's journey, take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you risk everything for love in a world like this? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the powerful ending. Because the final chapter of their war was about to begin. The convoy moved silently through the night, shadows stretching across empty streets. Elena sat beside Jae-hyun, her hands steady on the weapon across her lap. Every instinct told her that this would be the most dangerous night of her life. The location was an abandoned shipping warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a perfect trap. Intelligence confirmed Song-woo's presence, surrounded by heavily armed men. The operation had to be precise, swift, and merciless. "Stay close," Jae-hyun said quietly, his hand brushing hers for the briefest second. "I will," Elena replied, her voice calm but firm. Inside, adrenaline and fear warred for dominance. They exited the vehicle together, weapons drawn. Shadows of containers stretched like silent giants across the yard. Every corner, every crevice could hide a deadly opponent. Elena's pulse was steady. She was ready. The first gunfire erupted seconds after they entered. Shots rang out, echoing through the steel corridors. Elena ducked behind a container, returning fire with controlled precision. Every movement reflected the countless hours of training, the transformation from terrified bride to survivor. Jae-hyun moved beside her with silent grace, disarming attackers with calculated strikes. His focus remained split between neutralizing threats and keeping Elena safe. "Keep moving," he ordered. "We need to reach the center." Elena nodded, determination burning in her eyes. They weaved through the labyrinth of containers, exchanging fire with Song-woo's guards. The smell of gunpowder and smoke thickened the air. Then, in the heart of the warehouse, they found him. Song-woo, standing tall and defiant, weapon raised, flanked by a few of his most loyal men. "You should not have come," he said, his voice dripping with malice. Jae-hyun stepped forward, shielding Elena with his body. "It ends tonight." The battle erupted. Gunfire, screams, the thunder of bodies colliding with metal. Elena's movements were precise, shooting, ducking, and moving with lethal efficiency. She saw Jae-hyun strike with brutal force, yet always aware of her position. At one point, Song-woo lunged toward Elena, his weapon aimed directly at her. Instinct took over. She fired. The man fell. Jae-hyun reached her instantly, concern flashing in his eyes. "Are you hurt?" "No," she whispered, heart racing. "I'm fine." But there was no time to pause. The battle raged, and the warehouse became a storm of chaos. Jae-hyun and Song-woo clashed violently, years of hatred boiling into raw, merciless combat. Elena watched, fear and awe intertwining. Then came the final moment. Jae-hyun disarmed Song-woo, forcing him to his knees. Elena stepped forward, weapon trained on the man who had destroyed so much. Song-woo sneered, defiance unbroken. "You think this ends it?" he spat. "The cycle never ends." "It ends tonight," Elena said firmly. Her voice, steady and resolute, carried a weight that neither man could ignore. Song-woo was taken into custody. The remaining guards surrendered or fled. The warehouse fell silent, broken only by the labored breathing of survivors. Elena's knees threatened to give way as adrenaline ebbed, but Jae-hyun caught her. His hand was steady, grounding her. "You did well," he said quietly. "You survived." Tears blurred her vision. "I don't recognize myself anymore," she admitted. He studied her face. "You are not the same woman who arrived at my doorstep terrified and unsure. You are stronger, smarter, a survivor." They walked through the ruins together, shoulders brushing. Each glance held unspoken acknowledgement of the bond forged through fire, fear, and shared danger. Back at the mansion, the night was quiet. For the first time in weeks, Elena felt a fragile sense of calm. She knew the world outside would never be entirely safe. But inside this home, with him, she had reclaimed some control. Jae-hyun approached her quietly. "The debt is cleared. You are free to leave." Elena looked at him, the weight of her choice pressing on her chest. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I choose this life. Not because I have to, but because I want to with you." For the first time, he allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Vulnerability flickered in his eyes. "Are you certain?" "Yes," she replied, voice steady. "No more contracts. No more obligations. Just us." He stepped closer, closing the space between them. "Then we face the world together," he said. "Yes," Elena whispered. And for the first time, fear was replaced with fierce determination. The dawn broke over the city. The war had ended, but life remained a dangerous game. Yet in each other, they had found trust, devotion, and an unbreakable bond. If you've enjoyed Elena and Jae-hyun's journey through danger, betrayal, and intense love, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me, would you risk everything for the person you love, even if the world tried to destroy you? Because Elena's story proves that sometimes, love is forged not in safety, but in fire. And this is just the beginning.